Saturday, July 14th, 2018, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. I want to talk about the protests in London yesterday against President Trump. Some people say there were 100,000 people protesting President Trump. A lot of lefty liberals. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of them here. Does that mean that I'm a conservative right-winger? No, I'm apolitical. And it was a little bit discouraging to see so many young people so deceived about things in general. I was a little discouraged. I thought, why can't they go up to the Bank of England and protest every week about the fake monetary system we have, the corrupt, fraudulent fiat money system that's indebted them. It's lumbered them with humongous amount of debts over the last 10 years, but they don't even realize it. And they want even more government, more debt. But I'm not discouraged. And why? Well, because I think all of that is going to go away. The bill is going to have to be paid, so to speak. We can't go on forever printing money out of thin air and financing government welfare, also the military industrial complex. We can't go on forever financing that either. You have to understand, I'm not just against the welfare state and socialism. I'm also against the military industrial complex, big government, corporations in bed with governments. I'm for very small government. I'm for like decentralized activity, free markets, and people being self-sufficient. The system we have today, you have the top 1%, the people kind of below that, benefiting a lot because of this corporate largesse, and also the political lobbying largesse, military largesse, not only in the US but in the UK, Wall Street, City of London largesse, and we've got the other side of the spectrum where there's a lot of people who benefit from the welfare state. And don't get me wrong, those people are just using the system as well. And the people in the middle are the people who get, how can I say, don't benefit, are the people who have to finance it, who work hard, who don't want to be corrupt, who don't want to depend on welfare, and they suffer for it. And I think that's wrong. But I'm encouraged, even though yesterday at first glance I thought, why can't these people be protesting in front of the Bank of England, you know, every week, because it needs to be done. And I thought, you know, here they are protesting against President Trump. And with President Trump as well, you know, I'm not saying I love the guy. I'm just saying that he's not, I think he's a lot better than what we've had in the last 30, 40 years, actually. And the people are not used to it. They're not used to listening to the truth that he comes out with. I know his policies can be left, you know, all over the place, but in general, I don't think he's doing a horrible job, and he certainly doesn't deserve the treatment he got for his visit to the UK. I know right now he's up in Scotland at Turnberry, which he owns, British Open course resort. You know, good luck to him. I wouldn't mind playing golf at Turnberry. But the way he was treated here in London, I think it's out of order. Even if you don't like the guy, he's the head of states of the United States. If it wasn't for the United States, this country would probably be speaking German by now because of World War II. I know it's a different story, but, and the other thing as well, where were all the protesters, they call them the flaky left-wingers, when the King of Saudi Arabia was given the state visit, when the president of China was given royal treatment, state visit in the UK? Where were the 100,000 protesters? President Trump was elected democratically, after all. So that's what I wanted to say. I actually think these people, not only on the left, but the one percenters, the establishment, they have it coming for them, and things are going to change. Just because at the end of the day we can't go on spending money we don't have, and reality is going to hit them really hard. When it's going to happen, I don't know, but it can't go on forever, because if it could, Zimbabwe, Weimar Germany, they would have become the richest nations on earth, right? So that's what one of the things I wanted to talk about today. The other thing is I just want to have a quick look at the headlines on Zero Hedge. Interesting developments geopolitically in the Middle East. It says Gaza escalation, 40 Israeli airstrikes overnight, Hamas mortars, fires in southern Israel. So still the tit for tat. Of course, the Israelis will say that it was Hamas that started. The Palestinians will say vice versa. And it never ends. The other headline I see here is Mr. Trump, tear down this alliance. And it's in quotes. I guess that's in reference to what Reagan said to Gorbachev. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, the Berlin Wall. And it goes on to say here, I haven't read these stories, just reading the headlines and telling you what I think, okay? It says NATO's budget would be far better contracting Russia to build the Nord Stream 2 pipeline itself, then bullying Italy into buying another tank it doesn't need. This is nothing more than him trying to turn an obsolete NATO into another Keynesian job creation program. So this is someone here, I think, criticizing Trump, because Trump wants the other countries to pony up more money for NATO. I personally think Trump could care less about NATO. He said before, we don't need NATO anymore. So what I think he's trying to do is to say, we need to increase spending in NATO, and if you don't, and probably the European countries won't, and that will be an excuse for him to get rid of NATO. And this is authored by Tom Luongo, this article. But I actually think, we could be closer to the end of NATO than we think. Be interesting to see what comes out of the Helsinki summit between President Trump and President Putin. I think it's on Monday, the 16th of July. Other headline that's interesting for markets, says Chinese shadow bank lending unexpectedly plummets, sparking China growth fears. New report warns of unprecedented wage stagnation in OECD countries. Well, that's coming from the OECD. I think they're always behind the curve. You don't need a new study to tell you that, or a new report. We can tell that on the ground that wage stagnation, at least in the UK, in the US, not going anywhere, except if you are a part of the military, industrial, political complex, or the Wall Street, City of London axis, of course. So, and the other one I see here that I find interesting, it says, the globalist elite fears peace, wants war. Of course, that's what they want. And they also want to keep people divided left and right. Because it's the old strategy of divide and conquer, or divide and rule. So, and the other thing it does, war is very profitable. I've spoken about that before. I've recommended people read War is a Racket by Brigadier General Smedley Butler, and he exposed already the globalist elite back in the 1920s, and he showed in this. It's a short book, and it's an interesting book. I recommend people, reading the book, buying the book, and it just shows how much more profit the big American corporations started making during World War I, even before the U.S. went into the war, because the U.S. was providing a lot of war materials, war supplies for the warring nations. It's amazing how much a fortune those companies made, especially companies like DuPont, right? So yeah, I agree with that headline. I haven't read the story, but I think it's an interesting one to touch upon. So yeah, that's all really I wanted to talk about for Saturday. Tomorrow I will be doing a live stream probably around 8:30 p.m. London, which will be 3:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I haven't picked a subject yet. As usual, I'll be taking all your questions, try to answer them as best as possible. And yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, please like, share it far and wide, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and also follow me on Steemit, DTube, and on Twitter.